What if your life was a series of questions you asked yourself, and the way you lived was the answer to those very questions? How would that realization change the way you thought about life? This idea hit me hard when I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and the questions that emerged from that experience completely transformed my life. In this video, we're going to dive into this thought-provoking idea and explore how it could transform the way you live your life. Life itself is a continuum of questions that you ask yourself, and the way you live your life is your answer to those questions. Not just obvious, explicit questions, but also subtle, implicit questions. The fundamental questions about your values, assumptions, desires, and goals, and how you ask yourself these questions is going to guide your beliefs, actions, and life. Here's the interesting part. If we assume this is true, then you can start asking yourself better, higher quality questions. And doing so will compel you to seek and come up with better and higher quality answers. In other words, a better, higher quality way of living. As you get better at asking yourself higher quality questions, you'll also notice that you get better at asking other people better questions. I've had examples on multiple projects where people have commented that I asked great questions and questions that they didn't think about. And those questions were really just questions I would have asked myself if I were to work on the project alone. And this came natural to me as a consequence of me practicing asking myself better questions. Asking yourself great questions will also help you with your focus. In today's world, the problem isn't missing information, but that there is an overload of information. The game has therefore shifted to the one who is able to filter out bad information and focus on the right information. And asking yourself high-quality questions is a great way to do that. Some types of questions are also great at making you think outside the box. Tim Ferriss noticed patterns when he wrote his book Tools of Titan, that the wealthiest person usually ask themselves different and absurd questions. These absurd questions didn't allow you to use your default framework to come up with the solutions. They didn't allow you to use your current base assumptions to find the answer. They forced you to think differently and innovatively. Examples of these questions are: why can't you accomplish your 10-year goal in the next 6 months? If you had to 10x your goals, what would you do? If you had to double your goals with half the hours you put in, what would you do? These are questions that you can't answer quickly. You have to sit down, journal, reflect, and take your time to come up with answers. And 80% of them might be garbage, but 20% might be answers that completely change the way you go about your goals and life. Now let's move on to other examples of questions. The following question is a question I came up with, and it has helped me tremendously in pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And it goes like this: if I was 5% more like the person I wanted to become, what would I do right now? Let's analyze the question. The first part focuses on the person I want to become. This is great because it brings my long-term vision of the person I want to become into my mind in the present moment. But the person I want to become is leaps ahead from the person I am today. He's so much better in every way, and me trying to be and act like that person in the present moment is almost impossible. It is too big of a step for me to take. That is why I added the 5%. By having the person I want to become in mind, I have the direction of how I should act. But since he's so much better than the present me, I reduce the gap to an achievable step by focusing on only acting 5% more like that person. 5% feels very achievable, and it makes it much more likely for me to do what I know I should do when I'm out of my comfort zone. You can change the percentage to whatever you want to make it more reasonable for you, like 2% or 10%. The most important thing is just to have a percentage that reduces the gap between the future you and the current you, such that you don't get overwhelmed, and reduces the gap enough such that you're actually able to take a step forward. The second part of the question is, what would I do right now? This part redirects everything into the present moment. I usually ask myself this question when I'm about to be or are already out of my comfort zone. This is why I redirect the focus to the now, such that I can change my behavior immediately. So this was an example of what I would consider a good question to ask yourself throughout the day. And I've given you other questions earlier in the video. I'm going to give you a few more that you can play around with. What can I do right now such that by doing it, everything else either becomes easier or unnecessary? What is the thing that I know I should be doing, but I'm trying to avoid? If you had a gun to your head and would die in the next 5 seconds if you didn't choose one, which one would you choose? If you're new to this, I would advise you to just start collecting good questions and test them one at a time. And after a while, you can start to come up with your own questions. I'll end the video with one of the earlier quotes. Your life is a continuum of questions, and the way you live your life will be the answers to those questions. That is all for this video. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to hit the subscribe button or check out the next video that is linked here. And if you want to get even more self-improvement insights, my free to-do list template, or you just want to get to know me better, join my free newsletter that is linked below.